Good afternoon and welcome everyone to this meeting of the Glenorchy Planning Authority on the 16th of June 2025. I'd like to acknowledge the Muanina people as traditional owners of this land. We recognise all Tasmanian Aboriginal people as the original owners and continuing custodians of the land and waters of this island of Trevita. We pay our respect to Aboriginal elders past and present, and we commit to working for a city that welcomes and respects all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. My name is Sue Hickey. I'm the Mayor of Glenorchy and Chair of this afternoon's Planning Authority meeting. I'm very pleased to be joined this afternoon by my fellow authority members, and we have the Deputy Mayor, Alderman Yaxley, we have Alderman King, we have Alderman Marks, and we have Councillor Molly Kendall, who's a proxy for Alderman Josh Cocksharp. We also have a number of council staff in attendance this afternoon, and with that, I'm moving on to item 1, which is the Planning Authority Declaration. The Glenorchy Planning Authority intends to act as a planning authority under the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act of 1993. The Planning Authority has full power to make planning decisions on behalf of the Council. I now get to read to you the meeting procedures. The planning officer will present the assessment and recommendation and then answer any questions of the elected members. Please note at this stage, a decision has not been made on any matter. The chairperson invites the applicant and any interested parties to have their say by addressing the meeting. Speakers will be limited to 5 minutes. The chairperson may ask the planning officer to comment on any matters raised. And the planning authority discusses the application before for the statutory planning applications. The planning authority decides the application and the senior statutory planner explains the appeal rights. And finally, for planning scheme amendments, the strategic planner explains the decisions being made by the Planning Authority and the Tasmanian Planning Commission. Now, we have legal requirements. When deciding an application, the authority is required to, by law, seek to further sustainable development objectives of the Act, consider representations received during the public notification period, and make the decision by reference to the current planning scheme provisions. Obviously, we'd like everyone to comply with the directions of the chairperson and please respect each other's views and their rights to have a say. Item 2, apologies and leave of absence. The following apology has been received, and that is from Alderman Cocksharp. Pecuniary interest. Does any member have a pecuniary interest in any of the items on the agenda this afternoon? No. And now, item 4, confirmation of the minutes. Do I have someone to move the minutes of the Glenorchy Planning Authority meeting held on the 14th of April? I think Alderman Marks just pipped the deputy, so the deputy was happy to second. Thank you. Any further discussion required? No, then I'm going to put that to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. And item 5, this is quite exciting. It's a report on representations for the proposed use and development of a park and ride facility at 61 Claremont Link Road and Claremont Link Road, Claremont, Maralinga Drive and Main Road, Berridale. And I'll ask Chantel to take the lead, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. So, as you can see on the zoning map, the site is actually quite large. The proposal is for a park and ride facility located between Maralinga Drive and Claremont Link Road, Berridale. It actually consists of 7 lots in total due to the scope of the works carrying across the road and in part also touching on a portion of the rail reserve. The facility will be located mainly in the utilities zone with access as far community purpose and general residential zones. As you can see on the site plan, the area is quite substantial. If you can go to the next page, next one. So this is an overview of the whole site, and then I'll go through it in 3 portions because it's quite large. The proposal includes 2 main parking areas. So one is near Myella Drive and the other is near Matera Crescent. And what you'll see on there, and we'll go into further depth in a moment, the proposal will provide 2 main bus laybys. So one will be via the Claremont Link Road side, and the other one will be via the Maralinga Drive side. It's also going to include substantial upgrades to Claremont Link Road, as well as the access to Claremont College to be able to accommodate this and to be able to provide for the traffic generated. So if you can go to the next slide, we'll just go through. So this is looking at the portion beginning at Myella Drive. So this is the first part of the car park. You can just see one of the bus shelters in the corner there. So the discretions will include the use, pedestrian access, traffic generation, and works within a waterway and protection area, and works within a flood-prone hazard area, because it covers quite substantial area. So if you go to the next one, on this slide, you can see this is a substantial works will be taking place to improve and widen the access to Claremont College access, as well as allowing for the bus laybys and through traffic without placing too much impact on the existing road and traffic system. So if you go to the next one. And this just shows the extent of the second car park, and on the right-hand side, you can see the retention basin, which in part goes over to the rail reserve. It is near the T section between Main Road and Claremont Link Road. So in relation to the use, Council's Environmental Health Officer is supportive of it being in close proximity to the general residential zone based on the noise report and lighting details provided. And in relation to the pedestrian access and traffic generation, Council's Transport Engineer is supportive based on the TIA. In relation to the works within the waterway protection area and flood-prone hazard area, both Council's Transport Engineer and Senior Civil Engineer are supportive based on the Traffic Engineer and flood report. So if we go through the photos here, this just shows looking at Myella Drive and Marilla Drive, so the first portion, the first car park area. So during the advertising period, and that slide shows the Claremont Link Road and the access into the college, so that's sort of in the middle of the area. So during the advertising process, 3 representations received. They raised concerns regarding traffic, that was the main one raised by everyone, and then construction and potential odour from the retention basin. So if you want to go to the next one. So this just shows the area looking off near Matura Crescent, and this is basically where the flood prone area is and where the retention basin will be. So as discussed, Council's engineers are supportive based on the reports. In addition, Council's Senior Civil Engineer has stated that retention basin has been designed to minimise potential odour in the area. It will only be designed for overflow, not a regular use. And if you want to go to the very last slide, that one just looks back over the majority of the site, so you can get an idea of how close it is to the houses on that site. In regard to construction, unfortunately, this is not a consideration under the planning scheme. However, all the reports provided state that construction will happen during standard hours, and so there will be no overnight works for this project or going into the nighttime hours or early morning. So Council's Environmental Health Officer and Engineers are supportive, subject to conditions, and for this reason the proposal is being recommended for approval, and if you look there'll be a number of conditions just simply due to the size of the project. Thank you.
So now I'm calling for questions from the authority members for the planning officer. Thank you, Alderman Marks.
Yes, I have a couple of questions. I've looked through all the paperwork involved on this. One of the things is the bus shelters themselves. The walls of the bus shelters, what are they going to be made out of?
So the bus shelters are going to look fairly similar to the ones that you see here in Glenorchy, where they're going to be open on one side, they're going to have the ColourBond roof, and they'll have the perspex or glass view through. So they're not going to be closed off inside. You'll have the
No.
sight lines through.
As long as they don't have glass, because
Yes.
I guarantee it's the first thing that's going to be done is them smashed. And the other question is the width of the footpaths has been listed as 1 metre. I know my wheelchair, for instance, electric wheelchair is more than 1 metre wide. So the width of the footpaths, I'm a bit worried about people going over the edge and that.
I might get Council's traffic engineer to respond to that, because I believe the footpaths are shared.
They're shared
paths.
And they're 2.5 metres wide.
2.5.
And they go around the extent of the whole car park.
Yeah, certainly in 1 metre.
Yes, I'm not sure where that, yeah.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Alderman King? Oh, sorry, Deputy.
Through you, Chair, and thanks, Chantel, for that report. But back to the discretions, one was pedestrian.
Pedestrian access. So,
Pedestrian access, right? Okay.
so normally under the planning scheme, what we would see is pedestrian access for a much smaller development. For example, the YMCA is a good example, where we would see pedestrian access through the car parking area, where the most obvious path where people are going to walk through. Because this development is so large in scale and set up with components in 2 separate car parking areas, and then we've got the bicycle path and then the bus laybys. What the proposal is doing is designing for the access to go around the car parking areas and through the centre in between the 2 car parking areas rather than through.
Now, I also heard a whisper that this may act as overflow for new basketball courts. I mean, is it allowed to do that, or
I
no?
have
It's a good
not-
answer, or not sure.
So the basketball courts you will be seeing at the next GPA meeting.
Yeah.
And that's certainly not my understanding of the application that's before us. So they have acknowledged that this may be used as an alternate transport facility. So to provide, they've piggybacked off the idea of having this as the fact that there is a convenient hub for buses to drop people off who are using the facility, but it certainly hasn't been relied upon for parking numbers.
So it's just a park and ride for buses. That's
Absolutely.
clearly
Yeah,
the case. Yes.
it's not a car park. For
Some politicians don't know that, so that's right. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Just regarding in the utility zones around the lighting, I think it's on page 13, clause 27.3.1. It talks about the security lighting operating after 11 p.m. It talks about it being partially buffered. Is there any reason why it couldn't be fully buffered? I'm just concerned about obviously the overflow of light into the neighbouring residential area.
Okay, I might see if the environmental health officer or
Traffic engineering light speed work.
Sorry.
They had addressed that in the report.
Yep.
That buffer itself wouldn't spill back towards the residential area.
Okay.
And they were just stating it was necessary to have it because of security.
Yeah, it meant that, from what I read, it mentioned that it was partially buffered. And so I was just wondering, I guess it's just a concern that I thought I might have, that just obviously for the local residents next door. So as long as that's being considered and thought through, that's fine. My other one was regarding potentially school children, college. They don't go to school, they're college children, kids, adults, young adults, whatever, people, potentially crossing from that side over to the college. Is there, that's a concern that I have, and I don't know whether it's a traffic concern or how that can be thought through or alleviated. Was there any explanation on that side?
So on Claremont Road, they're putting in 2 medium pedestrian islands either side of the college.
Okay, great.
And that's considered quite appropriate because you have good sight lines as well.
Yeah, it's pretty straight. Yeah, great. Okay, excellent. Thank you. No, nothing more. No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I noted with interest and pleasure that there is a provision for a future toilet. Who funds that? Like, is that going to be part of a government-funded initiative? Or would that be the responsibility of the council?
That would be state road.
It would be state road. Right, and does this planning authority have any ability to pressure the state government to build the toilet sooner than later? The very isolated area you need to go.
Could we not put it as part of that it be part of the bill?
Doesn't form part of the current application.
It's not part of this application. However, there are some aspects of this application that, if they had been done separately, may not have required a planning permit at all. So that's a discussion we usually have separately, and it may be that it may end up being exempt. So it's something that will happen.
So unfortunately, we have no head of power to put any pressure on them through the planning process.
Can we make a recommendation or something to that effect? Strengthen that? No ability?
No, there's no ability within the permit. The best we could possibly do is put some advice in the letter that goes out with the permit, but it won't be something we can enforce. It would be, we encourage you to consider this soon, but it's not our standard response letter.
Okay, maybe I can write a mayoral letter.
I think if it's in writing, at least we've done as much as we can to make.
Yes, it's such an isolated area.
That'd be
The other thing that concerned me was 245 car parks. Fantastic. I mean, I like this as an approach to get more traffic off the roads, but I wondered if, like the bus, I think it's a 5 and 3, isn't it? Seaters, bus shelters. They don't really seem adequate for that amount of cars if you have to wait an hour for a bus.
People won't be waiting an hour for a bus. So they've given us the likely timeframes of when the buses are likely to start and end. They will be matching buses to the service. So there will be more buses available, for example, in the morning and in the evening.
Sounds like a drastic improvement to metro services. Excellent. Okay, Councillor Kendall.
Thank you, through Matt. Thanks for the report. I really enjoyed this. It was my first GPA meeting, and Park and Ride's really exciting prospect, and I enjoyed thinking about all of the ways that it's going to activate the local area and what people are going to use it for. Similar to the Deputy Mayor, I also thought about people using it for the school, possibly parents doing like a kiss and ride kind of a situation. I know my teenager always wants me to drop him off around the corner, so that's a possibility, I think. And looking at the maps, at the report, I wasn't sure. I was a little bit concerned about the estimation of 10% of the usage being just drop and ride. Considering if it's higher than that, but if people are using it to drop off their partner or their kid more than we expect them to, is there an area on the in the development that is a place to pull over that isn't just for buses? Couldn't quite figure it out by just looking at the map.
There is a drop off and pick up area in the smaller car park to the south.
Okay.
Just north of the car park. Do you see the little half circle on the map up there?
Yep.
That's a drop off and pick up area.
Okay, so you drive in and yeah. Okay. Great. I've got 2 more because I was so excited. So sound in the sound. I know it's there's a requirement for a report to be done, I think 3 months after the development.
Yes, that's standard practice.
Okay.
To provide confirmation.
Yeah. So part of my naivety, but is it assumed that that will be at the cost of the developer if there are sound issues that they then need to mitigate?
If that were true, then yes, that would be up to the developer to sort that.
Yeah. All right. I think that's actually it. Unless I've lost one.
Thank you, Alderman King.
Just one last question. I'm not speaking to this now, but I see Park and Ride as a brilliant thing because I see it in action when I travel over Clarence Sports Centre or Clarence Pool on a regular basis. And behind the Clarence Pool, there is a very large grassed area, as well as the Clarence car park and then FSRA car park. And those areas are overflowed on a lot of occasions because it is such a popular way to actually get people to take up public transport, which is a great thing, but they do take other people's parking spaces up. What's going to happen if this overfills and people start parking in the adjacent streets of Chigwell? Are we going to have parking ranges out there? Are we going to have time limits on the streets? Where will that leave us?
I think,
We could potentially consult with residents and look at time limit parking. So often where there's commuter parking in the street, often we time limit one side of the street and not the other. So there's options to park all day or to have, 2-hour parking control, 3 hours in this case. So I imagine most people are catching the bus into town. So 3-hour parking control.
So we've given it consideration, or we are going to consider it?
Well, it depends. Well,
Wait and see.
Wait and see. Yes.
Build it and they'll come. That's the thing. And I've seen what happens behind there, and there would be well over 200 cars every day, from 7:30 in the morning through till 6, 7 at night, which is great because that's what you want. You want people, but they're parking other people's spots. That's what I'm getting at. So as long as we're going to give that some consideration, that's good. We have a plan.
Okay, we done with questions?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. So it's now I'm going to acknowledge members of the gallery. And do we have any representatives or applicants? No in attendance. Well, we do have Eddie Steinberg. And would you like to come and ask a question? I believe you have something relevant to this issue you'd like to ask. Yes, please. Just so we can hear you better.
My concerns, my questions relate to health and safety, and some of the questions have already covered that. But I'm very disappointed that a location where there are likely to be large numbers of people at various times does not have toilets. Someone put that on the record that I'm extremely disappointed by that. And I also wonder about other health issues such as water. We have water refill stations scattered around the city. To me, this is an ideal location for that sort of facility. So that wasn't really a question.
Do you need an answer from the officers, or is this something perhaps I could add into my mayoral letter asking that Tas Water provides a water stand?
Yes.
I'd be happy to champion that for you. Thank you. I don't think that affects the permit in any way, no. Okay, so now I'm going to ask somebody to move the recommendation. Thank you, Deputy. And a second to thank you, Alderman Marks. And so now, would anyone else like to speak to this motion?
Deputy first.
Yeah.
Deputy first,
Yeah.
yes.
Thank you again to the team for a thorough report. It really does explain everything clearly, and any questions that have been raised have been answered really well. So I appreciate all your work. Thank you. I'm certainly satisfied with the officer's response to the representations that were received. Certainly given good consideration to them. Satisfied that the performance criteria has also been met in the discretions. So obviously we're seeing the facility, from this facility, improvements around in our area as well, which is excellent to see. Transport is a very important part of our community. It's relied upon by many in our area, so we need to continue to see good advocacy for this type of access for public transport, especially, and I'm more than happy to vote for the recommendation.
Thank you. Alderman King.
Thank you, Chair. Along with Alderman Yax's comments on, as I said, I've witnessed park and ride here in Tasmania. It's a rare thing. Sadly, we don't have enough of it, and so I'm very supportive of it. We see it on the mainland all the time. It's the only way that makes public transport really work effectively, because people won't walk, can't walk, we're too far away, it's too hilly. So this sort of arrangement is what is needed to get people onto public transport. So well done to the government for doing that. But again, we do need, as suggested, I think there needs to be a toilet there. I'll put that on record, and there needs to be a water station, simply because there are more and more people with rescue dogs, etc., who take their dogs on public transport, and they need access to water as well as other people. So I think it needs to be put on the record that these things are necessary as part of it. 245 cars, there's a lot of people that someone's going to need facilities at some time. So I do hope we follow the.
Yes, okay. Anyone else like to comment? Thank you, councillor Kendall.
In furious agreement here, really happy to see this park and ride application come to our area. I think it's something that we can be really proud of. Look forward to parking my bike in the little bike parking storage, and yeah, look forward to seeing how it activates not only the local area, Claremont around it, but also the Glenorchy CBD, I think, and it will be the Hobart CBD that will reduce congestion in and make those two destinations more appealing. So yeah, happy to commend it. Thanks for the report.
Thank you. Yes, and I think on King also mothers with babies that might need changing, all sorts of things. But anyway, yeah, I'm in agreement too. I think this is a great step forward for building capacity for public transport and getting people to trust back in public transport. So if there's no further discussion, yes, no. All those in favour, please raise your hand. It's carried unanimously. And now I'm going to pass it back to our Senior Statutory Planner to explain the process from here.
Apologies.
Toss a coin.
So from here, council will issue a permit for the application. The advice of the permit will be sent to the applicant and all representatives. There'll be a 14-day appeal period following that, in which either the representatives or the applicant can appeal either the decision or any of the individual conditions within. And from there, State Growth can then progress and give us a park and ride.
Thank you. Well, that brings our meeting to a close, and the time being 3:58. So thank you everyone for attendance.